Examples देने हैं?
Examples, yes. Examples of the whatever you can cover within that. If you cannot cover, don't touch.
Yes, we have been doing webinars for long.
So, hello and welcome back. This is Ajay Naik, and we are back with our Thursday webinar. And with me we have Manasvi.
Yes, thank you Ajay for having me here. It's like really fun doing webinars here.
Yeah, so this topic is pretty good. I think we are building a JavaScript library of our own. And so tell me, Manasvi, like why JavaScript library this time?
Well, first of all, I love JavaScript, and then not just JavaScript. If you take any language, libraries are kind of really important because they kind of help you do a lot of things in a very minimal way. You don't have to code a lot. You just have to call the APIs that the library expose, and you get your work done. And that's how your development time becomes faster. So why not build a library if you
Yes.
can actually do that?
And I think when I was working as a developer, even I had tried a lot and I created 2, 3 libraries. Few of them are present in the Git. It was fun as well. Like
Yes.
you become part of a
Well, the
open
thing is, you
source.
don't only make your own life easier, you make others' life easier too.
Exactly.
That's how you support the developer community.
Yes, yes. So let's go and see like how we are going to go through this webinar. The first question is why one should create their own JavaScript library. Why your own JavaScript library? It's work actually. So like,
Yeah.
what is the main reason when we talk about in a business way, or maybe like on an enterprise way, or maybe as a thinking as a developer, what is the use of creating your own JavaScript library?
Well, the first of all, if you make a library and then so if you make a library and then you want to use it at a multiple places, like your code might have a lot of things that needs to be taken care of. Let me just take an example here. Say you want to use a queue. So you might need to use the queue at multiple places in your code, and if you have a library for it, then using queue becomes really easy. You can just push the elements there, you can pop the elements from there, and you don't really need to know what's going on behind the scene. So your task has been made easier, and well, that's
Yeah, I think
kind of one of the important use cases of it.
exactly.
And then again, say you want, since it is a utility, right? It's a utility function, and then you want to, upgrade it. You want to make it better. So you don't have to really change it everywhere in your code. You just need to upgrade your library and
Usability you are talking about.
exactly.
So reusability and usability.
Yeah, and you can upgrade it really fast. Without having to go through the pain of changing it all over the places.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think when you are having a piece of code and that piece of code is changed or is going to be changed, and if you make it as library, you just need to change one place and then the effect will be reflected everywhere if you're
Exactly.
using that particular piece of code. Much easier to actually manage stuff. there.
Yeah.
And I think one of the major reason is sometimes you need to give features to other developers. For example, if you are a team lead or maybe you are an architect, a CTO of a company, you design a feature and you want to just push to the team and say, okay, use this feature. They don't need to know much about it. They need to know basically implementation of that
Yeah, like
feature.
how it works. You just need to do the documentation, and
Exactly.
every developer can take benefit from it.
Yeah, even I think open source community, that is the mindset, the top level developers, they always take the lead to create some of the cool feature, nice libraries. In this
Yes.
case, it's Google, they always come up with jQuery and jQuery. I think jQuery UI is different development community, but still, these people take the lead. They help to build an excellent community, and I think that is something which contribute to the entire developer community.
Exactly.
Yeah. So going forward, when we think about creating our own JavaScript library,
Yeah.
then what are the ways to do it? Next question.
So the first thing that you need to do is, like, whenever your library is being called or being added as a script to your HTML document, then what you need to do is initialize everything that you have there. So for that we have something called IIFE, even though it's not spelled as IIFY, but it's called IIFE. So it's basically an immediately invoked function expression.
Yeah.
So what it does is it kind of uh, like executes the function as soon as the script is loaded. So you get the benefit of all the APIs that you have added there, and then you can expose it to the developer. They can use it the way they like.
Yeah, I think most important part is there are certain kind of design patterns
Yes.
which one uses while designing a library or even writing a piece of code which can be reused in JavaScript. So I think IIFE is one of the design pattern we have.
Yes.
So can we do a small IIFE just to make sure, no, just to understand?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I will just
Can
kind
you
of-
switch to my laptop?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sure.
So we can-
So here I have my index.html ready,
Yeah.
just like all the time. So we have the normal HTML structure. So let's give the title use of IIFE, how it's different from the normal functions.
Yeah.
So let's just add a script here. Now inside script, okay, the syntax for IIFE is first of all we give a bracket and then we write a function, and just after the definition of function we call this function.
Yep. It's kind of
So
immediately.
this is one of the ways of doing it. There are other ways too, but they're pretty much similar, so it doesn't really make a lot of difference. So if I put a console.log here, say hello, I have been initialized, and let's also create another function here that's not an IIFE, and put a console log here too. Let's just copy this. We can't keep it the same because then we wouldn't know from where it got printed.
Yes.
So I have not been initialized because we know it wouldn't be. So we save it and we go to Chrome or any browser that you like for that matter, and we kind of refresh this index.html. And if we look at inspect element, well, guess let's put a variable name to it. Let's name this function something.
Yeah.
ABC. Let's run it again. So as you can see here, I'll just open the console log. It says hello, I have been initialized. So as you can see, this function has been called automatically while this function is not.
Yeah.
So if I have to call this function, I'll have to specifically write ABC and then call the function. So that's how you kind of initialize things while writing your own JavaScript library, or you can call it a plugin.
Yeah. So in this case, I think what is actually happening here is these are immediately invoked functions.
Yes.
And if you have certain objects to be initialized and they are present in your memory space, and you can access those functions because those functions will be then available, and you can like use those functions. If you call those libraries, those scripts are run, and then you have access to those functions within the scope. And I think that is how you are making those features available, and that's why that's library.
Yes.
So this is one of the way, and I think there are multiple ways. A few of other
we
ways.
can actually mix and match all of those, and you know they all help you in some way. If we look at the next one, that's prototypal inheritance. So in JavaScript we have the concept of object-oriented programming, and but here the difference what we have here from the other languages is we don't work on classes.
Yeah.
We actually work on objects. So it's kind of an object inherits another object, and that is through a keyword called prototype.
Yeah.
So let's see an example here how like the inheritance works in JavaScript.
Yeah, because like JavaScript don't have classes and inheritance as it is in Java.
Yes, we
So-
have object inheritance.
Exactly.
Yes.
So the way of approaching this, the way of inheritance in JavaScript is a little different
Yeah.
from Java. And I think mostly some of the very popular libraries like UI5 is built with prototypal inheritance.
Yes.
So these are some of the concepts which can be used. So should we switch to?
Yeah, please. We can actually go ahead and see it.
Yeah.
It's more fun that way. So I'm just going to put it inside the IIFE. I always called it IIFE. But anyways, so let's create two objects. So say we have car. Okay, and we have like we call it a property inside it called wheels, and the value is 4.
Yeah.
And let's have another variable called say SUV. I like SUVs. So we can have another property here called seats, a number of seats. So let's have an array here because they come with 5-seaters and 6-seaters too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So normally what you would see is if I do a console log here and I print SUV number of seats. Let's make these strings. So I will get the first one. So let's put 1 here so that we know which
Yeah, in console log wheels.
yeah, which one is that. Okay. So we'll just copy this again and again. And if I do SUV and wheel, it should give me something. And then what I do is do a prototypal inheritance.
Yes.
So SUV dot underscore proto underscore equals.
So this is the keyword
Yeah.
proto.
Proto is a keyword, yeah. So let's make it 2 and 3, and instead of wheels, let's make it number of seats. Let's try running it and see what the output is. So as you can see, for 1 it shows me 5,6. Well, okay, sorry, it should be wheels. So let's run it again.
So when you use SUV, if you go back to the
Yes.
code, and wheels, because the property is not, I think number of wheels, the first should be cars here, because number of wheels is a property of the car object. Yeah.
Yeah. So number of wheels is 4,
Yeah.
and for SUV number of seats. So what we are trying to do here is trying to access the car property
Yeah.
in the SUV object.
Yeah.
So I guess it's double underscore photo, double underscore.
Yeah. I think now it's a keyword.
Now it's a keyword. Yeah.
So it's always 2 double quotes.
Okay. And as you can see, for the number 3, we have 4 as output.
Yeah. So it's always the proto is a keyword which we are using for making look like that okay, the car is inheriting from SUV.
Yes.
Or I think or it's the other way around. The SUV is inheriting from the car.
SUV is inheriting from the car.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the thing is, even though I have the property wheels for SUV,
Yeah.
but I cannot really delete it because it has been inherited.
Yeah.
So that's the only catch here.
Okay.
So we can delete this property number of wheels, but we cannot delete this wheels
Yes.
property right here. Okay. So that's kind of about prototypal inheritance.
Yeah. So when we come back to our discussion of how to create a JavaScript library, even there are other structures. Maybe one of the popular in UI5 is AMD architecture, asynchronous module load. We'll not go into much details in this
Yes.
basic session. We will cover with IIFE how to create your own JavaScript library with IIFE pattern, and what we are going to build. Can you show us like what is the application which we are going
Yeah,
to
sure.
build?
Let me just show it to you. So I'm
Within
just
this 59 minutes, we
going
need to
open the file. I'm sorry, I'll just open it. So I've kind of made it here.
Yeah.
So I'll just open index.html.
Yeah.
And as you can see here, it's
Yeah.
kind of
Awesome password.
validation.
Yeah.
So what it does basically is, you know, I'm creating a library for validation of input fields.
Yeah.
So in this library, what happens is after a input box, we can place these dots,
Yeah.
and as you can see, they are red in color.
Mhm.
And when I hover over them,
Yeah.
we see that it tells me like what is the condition that must be met while inputting a value here. So what my library does is place these dots right here, and if say one of the conditions is met,
Yeah.
say it says must contain A or B,
Yeah.
and I have typed capital A here, you can't see it because this
It's
is
a
a password
password.
field.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you can see, it has become red.
Yeah.
Sorry, green. And this one says must contain C or D. If I enter a C, it becomes green too, and if I delete it, it becomes red again because the condition is unmet now.
Yeah.
So this is what we are going to make, and of course you can extend it for the other input fields too, like username and date of birth. Like you can do it with anything.
Yeah, even I think some of the password people wanted alphanumeric.
Yes.
They want special character 7, size should be 7 and all. All those validation can be done. So this library is just kind of
Validating the input field.
Exactly, validating the input. Very useful feature.
So basically what I'm going to do here is create a very basic one.
Yeah.
We can extend it further too. So for now, it is just going to do one keyword match.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and
Let's go ahead and build it. So let me go back to my previous index.html
Yeah.
page so that so as you can see, there's nothing here right now, and I'm just going to delete the script for now. And let's change the title now. Shall I start coding?
Yeah, we can go ahead.
So let's name it awesome password validation. Okay, so first of all, I'll make the basic index.html file. So I'll have a div, and inside I'll have another div that will contain the title. Again, just after this, I'll have an input field. So type would be password, or do you want me to make it username or something?
I think the username, yeah, make it password, yeah.
Make it password?
Yeah.
So shall I put the type as password? Or we can just change it and see. And I'm going to give an ID to it. So let's name it my password. And then maybe I should have a placeholder to enter your password here. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the basic structure of my index.html, and I can just go ahead and see it. So here it is.
Yeah.
I can enter the password here. As you can see, we are not able to see the word. Let's make it text just to make it a bit more visibly nice. Now the next thing that I'm going to do here is add the jQuery script, because then I'll have the complete access to API DOM APIs.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just go here. I have already opened the script code for jQuery, and I'm just gonna copy it and place it here as a script. So my source would be okay. I copied it completely, right? Just place it here. Okay. So now that we have the script, we can go ahead and create our JavaScript file. So I just open the command prompt and I create this file. So validate
So using the touch command here.
input.js. It's kind of one of my favorites because it just creates a file with no text inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's add our script here. So first of all, we are going to write the syntax of IIFE. Now the real deal starts here. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to do is create an object. Okay. If I call this object, make an instance of this object, it will kind of place that dot there, and whenever the input changes, depending on that, it will validate it. So I'll just call it validate dot equals, this will be an object. Be a function. Okay. So let's start by calling this object, and for that I will make another JavaScript file. That would be kind of the one that I create for myself.
Yeah.
My custom script. So my script.js. Let's go ahead. And
So basically, where you are going to put the function, because you are creating a lot of files here. So
Yeah.
this is going to create the IIFE, the valid date input, and my script is going to create what?
So my script is where I call this
IIFE.
function.
Okay.
Call this function validate dot,
Mhm.
and this will kind of place that dot right beside my input.
Okay, so you have to call that within the HTML page it's also.
Yes, think of it as the library that you have created, and maybe you have downloaded from somewhere,
Okay.
and you are making use of this function
Mhm.
to create those dots.
Okay.
So I'll just call this function from here. So new validate dot, and I'm going to have to pass some parameters here. So let's decide upon some parameters. So the first one would be ID.
Mhm.
So the ID would be the ID of my input box.
Okay.
Like related to this input box, there would be a dot. So since here we have my password, so we can put a hash here too, just for the sake for simplicity. Then we are going to have a match array. So what match array is, like in this array I have all the values that my input should be matched to. So in here say I have 0, comma 1, comma 2. Say my password field should have one of these
Character.
numbers.
Okay, so like it should be like, for example, if you are trying to have the same use case, so I will write A and B here.
Yeah.
Like the password should contain A and B.
Yeah, exactly. In the last example that you saw that I just showed you,
Yeah.
we had A, B and C, D.
Yeah.
Right? So I had created two validate dots.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we are going to have something called hover text.
Mhm.
Like what should be displayed when I'm hovering over that dot.
Yeah.
So let's put must contain 0, comma 1 or 2.
Okay.
And then I want to create a new ID for this dot 2,
Yeah.
so that I can add some features to it like hovering and all. So
basically, you are using myscript.js just to use the library itself.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
So match number will be a number 1. So this is my first dot, so I'll give a number 1.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, you'll see why I'm putting match number here.
Okay. So one thing which I would like to highlight here is, in this case, if you are putting this library in GitHub or maybe some place where other developer might use it or you might use it very later point of the, like after some time where you might have forgotten what you have done.
Yeah.
Normally in developers that is a common thing. So you will be writing those in the document itself, like how to use the library.
Yes, we can put a readme for this library that we are going to create.
And then this object creation is something which will be specifically for this library itself. So you will write that in documentation as well?
Not really. I'll just expose this name.
Yeah.
And how do I actually
Use that.
use the library?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So that's all I'll do.
Yeah, because then when you are creating those things, then people might think, okay, why I'm creating or where these are defined. So this will be something which we will do now inside this IIFE function, where we are going to define that. Why we are choosing or selecting or passing those properties within that object.
So I can have, so as you can see that while I'm creating a new instance for this function,
Yeah.
or maybe you can call it an object.
Yeah.
So when I'm creating a new instance for it, I'm passing argument to it.
Yeah.
This is my parameter, ID, match array, hover text and match number. So I should be able to access it here. So in JavaScript what happens is there is something called arguments array.
Yeah.
Okay. So in arguments array contain all the parameters that you have passed while creating a new instance of it.
Mhm.
So we are going to make use of this arguments array. And since it is an array and we have passed only one object here, it will be the first element of it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to verify it, like whether I have that first element or not.
It's always good to check before use it,
Yes.
because then it can throw error if it does not pass.
Exactly, wherever you feel that the error might come,
Yeah.
what you can do is
Just
you
check
just
before
just
use.
check it and throw the error so that
It's a very simple thing. Before using any objects, you can just check if it is actually existing, it's not undefined. Because most of the time, if somehow there's a case where there's undefined in the object, then it's a bug in the program. Then.
and then while doing a UI development,
Yeah.
finding bugs are really tough.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they never show you where the error came from.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do here is, if I have the argument,
Yeah.
and if that argument is an object,
Yeah.
then I'm just going to go ahead and validate it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call a function called validate, and set
options.
Options. Okay, let's put options. And in this, I'm going to pass this arguments 0
Yeah.
object. Okay. So we have created our validate dot function, and the function should dot end with a semicolon.
Yeah. Now I think we need to next create this validate and set option. So if I see this IIFE, it's basically a function which is invoked, and like the IIFE internally will have access to validate dot and also this new function which I think you are going to define here.
Yes.
And that's how I think you will be exposing the functionality, or maybe some of the functionality
Exactly.
as an like an API within the, not as an API, but as in the library itself.
Yes, you can call it API, because if I add some public functions here,
Yeah.
then maybe they can be exposed to our users so that they can make use of those functions.
Yeah.
Like for here, I'm just doing a match for the numerical characters. I can do it for alphabetical characters too. Now what happens is, say I want to validate for length, then the logic might be different. So if we create two functions here, two public functions here, one that checks for length and the other that checks for individual characters,
Yeah.
then maybe we can have two different logics here, and we can expose those two functions to our users so that they can make use of both of them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So as of now, since I just have one, well, I'd rather refrain from doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and create this. And since I'm creating it as a function only,
Mm-hmm.
so I'll have this as options. Okay. So argument 0 will come here as options, and I have just created this function. Now this function would be private. I won't be able to access it from outside this IIFE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you talk about private, so that means that other people might not be able to access it.
Exactly.
Even if they try.
Yes. And we want to do that because we don't want any modifications function, and this function is kind of like an internal part of our plugin.
Yeah.
Or library. It's like engine of a car.
Yeah.
You don't really need to know what's happening inside it.
Yeah.
Unless of course you are curious about it. So let's go ahead and create this function. So again, we are going to validate whether we have all the parameters here or not.
Mhm.
The ID, match array, hover text, and match number. So if options dot has own property. Okay, what has own property does is it checks whether options has that specific property or not. ID, and I'm going to put the same check for all of them. So I'm just going to copy it and paste it here.
Too many checks.
Yeah. The last one should not have an and in after
Yeah.
it. Yeah, too many checks. So we have match array, we have hover text, and then we have match number.
So these are all the property.
Yeah.
You're just checking the property, right?
I'm just checking whether all of the properties are present or not,
Okay.
because if it is not, then our function might fail at some point of time.
Yeah. We need to make sure. Yeah.
Else, we are just going to put a console log as of now. You can handle it in different ways. Not all properties are set. That sounds like a good log, right?
Yeah.
And for this, if let's put a log. Console log error. Calling this object. So yeah, let's go ahead and write our main function now.
Yeah.
So since I'm going to create a dot, I'm going to name it dot. Now this will be used a lot here. This is the keyword that actually tells me It's like binding to this variable, and it will be kind of accessible to me from everywhere. Right. So
So
this
in
dot
JavaScript also, I think it's sometime after a certain point of this and that, those concepts, sometimes it becomes very confusing. So like whenever I'm using this, I'm always making sure, okay, which this is there.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
this is that.
This becomes very complicated.
Yeah. So this, I think the line number 12, I will say.
Yeah.
The line number 12, this is inside the validate inset option.
Yes.
So it is that context, right?
Inside the scope.
Yeah. So any variable, anyone will have access to this variable.
So let's have this dot class name. We need to put a class to it to make it a circle. Since it's a div, we actually need to make a circle out of it.
Yeah.
And since I'm making a red dot, I'll just name this class as red dot. Then the next thing that I need to do is set the ID. So dot ID equals. So now, as you can see, I have got this match number property here. So what I'm going to do here is options ID plus options of match number.
Yeah.
Okay. It creates a unique ID for it. So if I'm about to call another validate dot for the same ID, my password, I can give a match number 2 and it will have another ID for it.
Okay.
For that.
So that is a way of like your implementation of this.
Yeah, I just want a different ID for it so that I can do some changes in it.
Yeah.
Like when and wherever needed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, to like for people who are maybe not that acquainted with the DOM element, so you are kind of taking that ID, so you're manipulating the ID of the DOM, right?
I'm manipulating the ID of this new div that I have just created.
So you get two unique objects and where you can control those things.
Yes.
And yeah.
And with jQuery that we just loaded, we can simply have an access to that specific ID.
Okay.
So I can just say this dot ID. Right. So I will have access to this dot then. Now what I need to do is I need to place this dot just after my input.
Yeah.
So my input has the ID my password.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what I'm going to do here is options ID is my password.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we are passing the ID here, so
Mm-hmm.
that we don't have to hard code it inside our code, and
Okay.
it becomes like really easy there. Dot after. Now what after does is it places the next. It kind of places this thing, whatever is inside this parenthesis,
Mhm.
after this
Like
element.
yeah, exactly.
After input. So what you'll see is this dot would be placed just after this input.
Yeah. So not in the next line, maybe sometime. So this is to avoid that going in the next line.
No, it would go in the next line.
Yeah,
it
if
will
we
not
don't
be
use
inside
the-
it.
yeah.
So if you want it inside it, what you need to do is append instead of
Yeah.
after.
So it is like next to it, not
Hmm.
below it, right?
Yeah. So this dot. Now should we check it like how?
Yeah, exactly. It's
how is
always
it?
good practice to check in between.
So let's go and check it. Refresh it. Okay. What I forgot to do was include these two scripts here.
Ah, okay.
That's kind of the most important thing here, right? Script. And I'll have the source as validate input.js. And I'll have another script right beneath this, and that would be myscript.js. So you can refresh it. So here should be the red dot.
Yeah, let's see what is the.
Inspect. And in the body, set step. After this input, you can see we have
Okay.
a red dot here too.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not visible to us because we have not yet declared the CSS for it.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
we need to declare the CSS too. So let's also create the CSS file. touch validate input dot css. Since the css is part of my JavaScript library, I'm also having the css here.
Yeah.
It will be bundled with the same script.
So the CSS will be included in the HTML or the JavaScript?
In the HTML only.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and create red dot. The first thing is position. I want it to be inline block. Then let's put the width and height of it. So that's what I like to do a lot, because then the width is fixed. If I put both min and max width property, then I kind of have the fixed width. It doesn't change. So I'm also going to put a min height and max height here. And then I'm going to give it a border radius of 50% to make it a circle. And then I'm just going to give it a color, background color. That's red. And save it. Okay, before running it, let's also include the
CSS
here.
So this is just to make that particular dot visible as a red dot.
Yes. So link tag, styles sheet, and href would be validate input dot css. Now if we refresh it,
we have a red dot below.
We have a dot. Okay. So let's go back to our JavaScript file.
So do we need to put that red dot inside the div of the index page? If you open the index page,
yeah.
If you put, I think the placeholder is okay within the div itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the red dot to come just beside the input, not below it.
Yeah.
So we are using the function after.
Yes. So it is coming just after this input.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, what happens is the div would come right here.
Yeah.
Let's save it. So go ahead and now while we are at it, let's also create the green dot.
Yeah, I think it will be same CSS.
Yeah.
The color will be different.
The color would be different, so I can just change it to green, and I would probably want it to be light green.
Yeah, so whenever some condition is matched, so I think the CSS will be changed, the property will change to green instead of red, right?
Yes. Okay, now I just want to check this dot here. Okay, as you can see, this is having ID as hash my password one.
Yeah.
Okay, but we don't really want the hash
Yeah,
here
yeah.
because just for the sake of simplicity, we passed this ID as hash,
Mhm.
and that's why it has taken it. So what we can also do here is ID within this slice from the first index.
Yeah.
So
it
now
will remove this hash.
it will remove this hash.
Yeah.
Okay, now that we have this set, we are seeing the dot here.
Mhm.
Let's go ahead and build our main functionality.
Mhm.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to access this dot div. So hash plus this dot id. So this will give me this ID.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we can get a DOM reference from this jQuery. I think we're using jQuery. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the next thing that we need to do here is whenever I go over this dot,
Mhm.
it should tell me what is the
The
corresponding criteria. Yeah. So dot hover function does that. So inside we have a callback. So now what we are going to do is $this. So when I use this here, it basically references to the same ID.
okay.
Okay. So this dot HTML.
So now you are getting a reference of that particular DOM element, which we just got. And then you're going to, yeah, exactly.
So whenever I'm going to hover over it,
yeah,
it will show me this HTML.
Mhm.
So the HTML here would be, we can have a line break here,
Mhm.
and then we can have a div, and then we need to close the div. Inside this would be our hover text.
Mhm.
Okay. So let's put the hover text here, options and hover text. So let's give some style to this, so that it doesn't look too bad.
Mhm.
And of course we'll have to use the escape character here, because we are using double quotes instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So since hover text will have a lot of text with spaces in between, so what I'm going to do is white space is no wrap, and okay, I don't think we have the dash there,
Mhm.
and then we are going to give it a position.
Absolutely, exactly.
So let's save it. And of course, when we are moving out of it, we need to remove this specific HTML.
Yeah.
So
it only appears when you kind of put your mouse over it. Yeah.
yes. So the second parameter we pass as another function, and then we copy the same.
Just make it blank.
Blank.
Yeah.
That would do it. So it's always a good idea to place semicolon, so JavaScript would know that the statement has end there.
Yeah.
So even if it is not really required, it's a good practice to do that.
Yeah. So let's check it, this small thing.
And also I want to change the cursor there.
Yeah.
Okay? So I'm just going to change the CSS cursor, and I'm going to name it pointer.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that we have this much ready, we can refresh it again, and when I go over here, I can see must contain 0, 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So well, all that's done. Now we just need to check, like whenever our input is changing, we need to detect that, and every time we need to check whether the condition has been satisfied or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just after this, we'll have access to options id dot on. So dot on is kind of a listener. It listens to the changes that have been made inside that specific input box.
Yes.
Okay. So this this listener is initialized with the name input, because it's an input text. Then we again have the function. So here, to access what's inside the input box, I'm going to develop I'm going to create another variable called cur val. So it will have the current value. And again, since it is inside this $option ID, I can reference to it with $this dot val. This will give me the value. Okay. Now I'll have a flag.
So why do we have a flag here?
No, I'll keep a flag for whether the match has occurred or not.
Okay.
So match flag. So initially it will be false. Okay. So I'm just going to check if the length of cur val equals 0, then match flag equals false.
Okay.
Okay. So the next thing that I'm going
So
to
what is your idea? For example, when you're thinking that I will check my parameters, which is going to be here the values, and if they are matched, then the flag will be false.
Okay. Let me give you a better idea.
Yeah.
I'll just comment it out, and I'll show you this output. So I'll just place a console log on current value equals cur value. I save it, if I go and refresh it again, I'll just switch to the console inspection. I input a password A, B, C, D. As you can see, I'm getting the current value equal A, AB, ABC, ABCD. So it's changing every time, right? So every time something new is being appended to it. So every time I need to check whether it matches with our match array. So whenever there is a match, I will set the match flag to be true, and whenever I see that my match flag has become true, I'll change this dot to green.
Yes.
Okay, that is initially red. So I'm just going to comment it out because it's never good to display the password. So yeah, so I'll also make another variable for match array, and that is options match. I think it was small. Match array. Now I'm just going to create a loop for variable I equals 0, I lesser than match array dot length I plus plus, and then we have another for loop, that's j lesser than cur val dot length j plus plus. I'm just going to check for each and every value.
Yep.
So if match array of I equals cur val of j, then my match flag is true, and there's really no point in checking even further.
Yeah.
So I can just break from here.
Yeah. So I think once you find like the condition is met, then that dot can be converted to green, and we are happy.
Yes, exactly. So we also need to take care, since this is a loop inside a loop, it will only break out of the second loop.
Yeah.
We need to break out of the first loop.
Yeah.
So I'll also place a check here that says if match flag, then break.
Yeah.
So it'll come out of here. Now all I need to do is just check for match flag, and if it is there, then what I do is change the class from red dot to green dot.
Green dot. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty simple, I think, this one.
Yes. So dollar options and then ID plus, wait a second, I also have to put a hash here. Dollar options dot ID. No, because we are inside this dollar option, dollar this will give me something completely different, so we can't use dollar plus this dot ID. So I'm just going to use this one.
Yeah. So exactly. Yeah.
So I can just remove the slice.
Yeah, exactly. That was something which I was going to tell.
Okay. So dot.
So this is going to get the dot, the specific dot which we are working on, operating on. It can be the first one. I think here it will be 1, so it will give us the DOM reference for that particular dot.
Yes.
And then we are going to just change the CSS attribute.
Change the attribute. So for that we have the function attr, and then we have green dot here. Then we have else. We'll just put the same and change green dot to red dot.
Yeah. Let's save it, and I think we can give it a check.
I think that's kind of done. So I'll just semicolon. Let's give it a check. Let's refresh it. So it says must contain 0, 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Let's do something for our viewers to see it. I have input type as text.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go here, refresh it. If
Can
I
you zoom in
write
the page so at least people can see? Yes, yes.
So we have A, it's still red.
Yeah.
I put 0, it turns to green.
Yeah.
I think it's too light. Let's make it dark green. Okay.
if you are a designer, then you might not really like it. But for developers, somehow like it's working. Feature is working.
If I put a 0 here,
Yeah.
see, it turned to green.
Yeah.
If I remove it, it will turn back to red.
Yeah.
So it's as easy as it is, and all you need to do is develop the CSS and JavaScript.
Yeah. If I want to add one more criteria, for example, let me say like dollar hash only. Like for example, if I want to take this library to the next level, can I use a regular expression here?
Suppose you can use a regular expression. The only thing that you will need to change then is this matching logic.
Yeah.
This is the only part that you will need to change, and
maybe you can have a property called isRegex, and
yes,
then if you're
isRegex,
yeah.
or maybe is an array,
Yeah.
is an object.
Yeah.
We can obviously make a check for that, and make it more generic to include even more and more number of more and more types of additions, basically,
Yes.
not number.
So here I think we just finished the
Yeah.
part where we kind of were using.
Yes.
Okay,
Let's
see.
make another dot and
Yeah.
see what happens. And instead of 0, 1 and 2, let's put it should contain special characters @ or hash or maybe an underscore.
Yeah.
Like one of the three.
Yeah.
Okay, let's save it. And okay, we'll have to change the hover text too. Save it, and we can just go ahead and refresh it, one dot after the another. So as we are placing it after it, so what happens here is, the second one that I placed, if you just see here, it has come like right after the input, and the first one that we created, it went kind of down.
Okay.
So the first one is showing me must contain @ hash or underscore, and the second one is showing me must contain 0, 1 or 2. So if I put hash here, the first one has become green. Then if I put 2 here, the second one is also green. Now if I go ahead and remove hash, the first one went away. If I have hash and @ both, okay, then if I remove one of them, it still remains green.
Yeah.
So it has kind of taken care of all the cases.
Yeah, so it's like a generic. I just need to change or add a new object, and that particular dot will be present.
Exactly. So what I needed to do, like say I had this library and the CSS already with me. Like say I didn't make it, someone actually gave it to me. So all I needed to do was place this one line and this another line.
Yeah. So I think even if you go to the JavaScript file,
Yeah.
and if you remove that line break, if you go a little up,
Okay.
yeah, this here, I think if you remove that line break, maybe I think we will be able to see that those two dots coming in the same line.
Well, not really. This will just place that hover text a bit up.
Okay.
So just for the clarity purpose, I put that line break because my pointer should not come over the text.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah,
So
that's
this is
why
for
I
the
put
pointer,
the,
yeah.
this was for the pointer and the hover text. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have in a way achieved.
So of course we can do some CSS changes here and place them all right in one line.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's always doable. I did not cover it here because I was more focused on making the library.
Yeah, yeah. Making the library with IIFE pattern. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those CSS changes you can always do. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think we do have a complete IIFE small library feature which we can use as well.
Yeah, I'm going to put this on GitHub, so if you want to check it out, or in fact I'll put the better version, the one that I have already created, and the one that I showed
with
you.
more CSS.
Yeah, with more CSS basically.
Yeah. So one thing which I would like to understand here is whenever you are designing any library,
Yeah.
what are the common issues which someone can face? What are the problems?
Well, the common issues that when you are a pro at doing this, you don't really face any problem.
Yeah.
You do it in the best way possible. But if you are a beginner, the challenges that you might face in the beginning is, the first of all, you don't really realize how important it is to make your code optimal. Because when I'm creating a big project and I'm using a lot of libraries, what happens is my app becomes really slow because of adding so many scripts.
Yeah.
So if every script is optimal in its own way, my app would run faster.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's how, like as you say, drop. You add drops and you make an ocean, right? So it's something like that. So if you add small optimization to your own library, well, it adds up to the speed of your app.
Yeah. So I think because it can happen that I'm calling, or many developers are calling this multiple times in the entire project, and then those particular parts should be very efficiently built up, so that if they're taking a lot of time, or for example here in this case we do have a for loop after for loop, and then we can avoid a time complexity issue where it's kind of looping twice inside twice. So those things we can
So
like
maybe
work on.
instead of array, we can have regex here.
Yeah.
Because regex matching will be faster than having two loops.
Exactly.
Right here.
So this can be like one of the things which we can improve upon in the version 2 of the library.
Yeah,
maybe.
maybe.
Yeah.
And then it has to be bug free.
Yeah.
Because see, other developers are using it.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want your code to be buggy, and for that you should write unit test cases so that people who are using your library, they have some confidence on your code that yes, it will run perfectly, and it should pass all the test cases.
Yeah, so in this case, I think we can also write unit test case just to, maybe we can cover that in a future webinars on how to write a unit test case. Those are very important in UI development because you are always changing a lot, and there are so many cases always which your code can break.
Yes.
And it's much easy to just do a check from the unit test part, and then you just kind of say.
Then again, see, I'm developing a very big project, so I'm already writing unit test cases for my own code.
Yeah.
It would be nice if someone who is giving me their library, they have written a unit test case for them too, because I wouldn't want my code to crash because of
any bug.
Any bug in the library, because I wouldn't be able to know how it is working.
Exactly. I think it's a very common issue, so you should, as a good practice, have unit test cases written if it's a big project or even if it's a small project. And when you are doing a library, it's always, you should do it actually when you are submitting the library.
Yes. And then again, as we talked about in this code also, like it could have been made more generic.
Yeah.
It could have covered a lot of cases like the length of the password, maybe, it should not contain your own name. Say in the form I have a field called full name. So it should not contain my name.
Yeah.
There are many places where you see this validation, your password should not contain your name. So those kind of
genericity you can
we can make it more generic by adding all those cases too.
So making any library more generic always increase the complexity of the codes and all. So making something generic, you should be pretty clear that what you're trying to do.
Yes.
And I think one point which came to my mind just now is you can also minify the library, so the size is pretty small.
The size is small.
And like that's like part of the optimal, making it optimal.
There are a lot of libraries which help you minify your code.
Exactly.
Basically.
So it's not that big of a deal.
Yes.
But yeah, so coming to this point of generics, making the code generic is pretty challenging sometimes to make your code generic, but it's always good if you have a generic code, because then you don't have to really hard code certain ways, and it can cover a lot of other issues. For example, here you said that you can check your name in password should not be same. Some people have they're just cutting short corners that okay, they are checking like just putting their name there, okay.
Yeah, just for the sake of not forgetting it.
Yeah. Pretty common. Username and password are both same. So those kind of stuff can also be done. Okay, so we are almost coming to the end of the webinar here, and I think just to finally give you a summary, and also if you are new to any or want to learn about more about JavaScript, mostly the very popular frameworks like AngularJS, Node.js, the detailed courses are present in our platform. You can check in uif5cn.com with coupon code webinar80, and webinar80 is the coupon code. You will get 80% of a discount on that courses. Those are very popular courses on our platform. We also have UF5 courses complete on a very detailed level, and those are hands-on courses.
Exactly, because we have actually went ahead and created a complete project in that course,
Yeah.
so that you get a very good understanding of how a developer's mindset works while developing a code.
Yes. So do check our courses on uifivecn.com,
Mhm.
and also check, use the coupon code webinar80 to get 80% off. And if you are using the coupon code webinar70, then you will be also eligible for one-to-one help from our expert Manasvi.
Yeah.
So
And
we-
our expert Ajay.
for UI5 only.
Yes.
Yeah. And some of the IoT use cases which I have done. And we are still building some of the pretty cool product in IoT which we'll showcase in the future webinar as well.
Exactly.
And also, as we are near the end of the webinar, what we also covered within this webinar, we saw overall is creating your own JavaScript library. If you have any idea or to create your own JavaScript library or any question related to how, you can take this concept into your own idea. Maybe you have some ideas of creating JavaScript library and you want to use this IIFE pattern to create your own library. You have questions on that, you can always email us at ajay@ufifcn.com or manasvi@ufifcn.com, or put it out in the comment section of the video in YouTube, and we will be able to help you through.
Yeah.
Or tweet us in our Twitter account, that will be also fine to us.
So everyone is going on Twitter.
Yeah, so we have already kind of reached 1 minute of our 59 minute, so I think we have to say goodbye. Yeah, but the session was wonderful, and from my side, I learned a lot. Basically, when we talk about webinars with JavaScript and creating on library, it's always fun to work with JavaScript.
Yes.
And I think JavaScript is going to be the future. So, as it's nice in afternoon in India, it's almost night. I think it's evening in India. Yeah. So good night from our side.
And
See you
we'll
on the next webinar.
Yeah.
So learn simple till then. Thank you for watching and joining us. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.